Most people think that homelessness is an economics issue, and I strongly disagree with this. Because most people will think, oh, well, if he had a job, then he could afford a place, and then he wouldn't be homeless. Or, hey, if there was enough affordable housing out there, he could get a job and afford a place to live, and therefore wouldn't be homeless. But homelessness is more than just an actual economic status or a state of being. Homelessness is this up here. This is kind of what creates homelessness to begin with. And until we fix these issues in our society, we will always have homelessness. And so this channel is a proof of concept. Now, I was lucky enough to come across an individual who I could tell, hey, this person is gonna be homeless. I mean, I just looked at the economics. I didn't even look much deeper because I figured, at least I would be kind enough to let this person know, hey, you're gonna be homeless and you better get your ducks in a row now, because if you don't, it's going to be very, very bad for you. And so this person and I, as we got to talk, I said, hey, I have an experiment. I believe that homelessness has to do with these specific things. And so therefore, I think that I can kind of not only teach you the ropes of how to be homeless, but I could actually take you from being about to be homeless and create some sort of lesson plan, structure, course of action to be able to deal with those that are going to actually be homeless or that are about to be homeless. Because there's a lot of personality traits that are passed down to us from our parents, through our environment, through life experience. And some of these personality traits or bad habits that we pick up are things that are abrasive to the relationships and the cohesion that is in our life. For example, my friend that I'm talking about, you could sit there and say on the surface, okay, her problem, the reason why she's going to be homeless is because of economics. She moved from one part of the country to another part of the country in the bad part of the year to a very rural area where it's all about word of mouth and creating, getting to know people within the community. It takes time to be able to build some sort of infrastructure or network that you can use to be able to make money by being able to get gigs and stuff like that within the community. The regular 9-to-5 jobs, those are generally the small business owner in the small town. So being able to move to a place like this, you could say, okay, there's some poor decisions that were made. And so therefore, this is an economics issue. However, what about the fact that this person has an issue with attachment? Because of their inability to reduce their attachment to all of their stuff and all their belongings, just to be able to sit there and say, save what I can because I can't afford to keep going. Instead, they let their attachment get in the way to a point where now it becomes abrasive, because now you're calling mom and dad and aunts and uncles and friends and saying, hey, I need help. Please help me, pay this and pay that because, I've got this here and that there and this here and that. And what it does is it slowly erodes those relationships to the point where now nobody wants to help you when you're probably in one of the worst places because you've been in a slow downward spiral. There have been a lot of people that have been there to help you financially. But again, over time, you end up burning those bridges to where when you really need it, nobody's there to help you. Or they're going to give you one last hurrah and then they're going to say, we're done. Okay, and so this is really what leads people to homelessness. It's not a drug addiction. It's not a mental health issue. It is basically bad personality traits that have been passed down to us through society. And you may say, well, Tuck, how does this happen? And how do we fix this? And that is, again, where this channel is proof of concept. Because there's plenty of information out there in the public to be able to prove this. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is not people trying to call us or anything else like that, because I know some of you may misinterpret what I'm about to say. But as far back as the 1930s, we started noticing that there was a decline in the infant mortality rate. Well, you still have big families with a low infant mortality rate. It causes an explosion on the population. This is something that naturally happens as technology evolves. Well, the thing is, they wanted to see how this was going to impact resources, and they saw resource wars in the future. And so if we didn't get on top of this, it would be a catastrophe in the future, and they knew this as far back as the 1930s. But the thing is, those that have the power to influence did not believe that the American people were responsible enough or would do the right thing and start reducing their family size because of the amount of strain it was going to put on resources and how it was going to degrade the quality of life as time goes along. But instead, what ends up happening is they put this information off to the government so that the government can now do its own study and then start implementing policy. This started with a piece of legislation that was written in 1960 and officially passed by Congress in 1976. It is commonly referred to as Global 2000. And the whole thing about this Global 2000 was it saw the resource issues, it saw the population boom, and it saw the negative effect it would have on the ecosystem as a whole, because they still understood what clean water was. They still understood what clean air was. They understood what a landscape not covered in trash looked like. And so they, having an understanding of the way that life was then, they decided to use government policy to be able to influence the population, to kind of use policy to make it to where you don't want to be able to have children. So this is where the breakup of the home has come from. This is where all these other things that have come from, such as the gender politics, the divisive culture, all of this stuff is designed to make an environment that is not really habitable to have or grow a family, because through this policy, they're able to influence your decision, okay? Because this is the only tool that the government has to be able to affect change. This is not a conspiracy. This should be widely known, okay? So how does this affect homelessness? What it does is it has unintended consequences. By breaking up the family, you don't have the father who, he's going to teach you certain parts of life. The mother, she is going to teach you certain parts of life. And together as a team, they are going to raise a whole and complete human being. But what has instead happened is corporations in their quest for greed have brought us to a point of being a consumer-based society, which means that we no longer we no longer really value the human being or the small things in life. We value how much stuff you have, how much it costs, and how much glamour you can show, how much bling you can show out in public, okay, versus the human element, which is another discussion to be talked about. But by breaking up the home, what you're doing is now you've got mom and dad who are now emotionally unbalanced, who are now taking and creating emotionally unbalanced children that are teaching them bad habits. And these habits, as society grows and gets more and more dense and we live more and more on top of each other, the erosion of trust because of just kind of how the government has been working over the years, all of this creates a ripe situation where people that would normally not be homeless because they would have a social safety net. If the family was together, you would have that social safety net. You have mom, you have dad, you had a proper upbringing, you had them hold you accountable to the things that you did because you represented the family out in public. You had a certain set of expectations that were placed on you, and they were societal expectations of how you conducted yourself within the community to be able to keep cohesion. And if you didn't do that, then the family would give you a couple of chances before eventually they would ostracize you. And so therefore the consequence was getting ostracized. But in today's modern society, instead of being ostracized, what is happening is we have the homeless. And instead of being able to have that social safety net to be able to say, okay, we understand, because like my mom, she was very mentally unstable. Okay, she was on disability for being bipolar. And the thing is the family had to keep her at least one town away because when she would get in her manic phase, they had to have some sort of buffer to be able to, slow my mom down and calm her down from her rage fit. Okay, but this is how back in the day, because my mom was still raised in a 1930s style home. This is how the family dealt with these issues, because my grandfather, he owned plenty of property. My mom always had a place to stay, but that was all she got. She never got any other help from the family other than it is our responsibility as a family to take care of our own. And we have stopped doing that because of how our social framework has been destroyed. So we could sit there and say we need to fix homelessness, and it starts with housing everybody, but does that really fix the issues? Because all it does is take somebody who's emotionally and mentally unbalanced and put them inside four walls to where now they can be destructive in a confined space versus being destructive in an open space where it can at least be watched by society. Okay, so you guys know how to help out the channel. Become a subscriber, share this content. Love to hear what you think. If you think that this is a cause that you want to get behind, there's two ways you can do it. Follow this channel because I'm going to be talking about the personality defects that cause homelessness, and also if you want to help out through the tip jar because you want to fund this so that I can continue the creating the foundation I need to, all that stuff's down in the tip jar. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next video.